Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I am opposed to this bill regarding taxing pensions. When I spoke on this measure a couple weeks ago, my comment that this bill in its original form and the $37,500 threshold at which it proposed to begin the tax was too low, almost cruel. At the time, I was referencing the low threshold, and one of my concerns with this bill, as currently drafted, is that while the threshold is now higher at $100,000, it opens the door to taxing the pensions of those with lower AGI in the future. It could slip down to $75,000 or $50,000 or lower before the end of this session or in future sessions. The fact is that this bill will tax our seniors, those on fixed incomes, with those with less opportunity to adjust to our rapidly rising cost of living. Barbara Stanton of the American Association of Retired Persons said it best in this Sunday Star Advertiser when she said this came as a shock to Hawaii's seniors whose fixed incomes are no match for rising costs. According to her, the Consumer Price Index shows a 70% increase for Honolulu over the past 20 years. With costs continuing to rise, it is unfair to take from those who were promised tax-free pensions decades ago. Mrs. Stanton's article also raised some important legal concerns that this body should be well aware of before it moves forward with this bill. First, she points out, federal law prohibits taxing pension income of non-residents living in Hawaii. Secondly, the Hawaii Constitution states that accrued benefits of retirees in the state retirement system shall not be diminished or impaired. These are potential legal problems that would diminish the gains this bill claims to generate. In conclusion, Mr. Speaker, I strongly oppose this measure, even though the federal adjusted gross income is high, $100,000, because of its potential legal flaws, but even more because I find the thought of targeting our unsuspecting seniors almost cruel. I vote no on this measure. Mahalo.
Thank you very much. Representative Ford, followed by Representative Choi.
Speaker, I also rise in opposition as my colleague.
Please proceed in opposition.
And to quote the ranking representative from Kaimuki Kahala, the bill in its original form was almost cruel. Now it's almost not almost cruel, but it's there. And she cited the AARP executive director. I will only paraphrase what the executive director is saying of AARP. Leave us alone. Look what you just did with the highway fund and these other funds. We don't trust you to leave our pensions alone. Once you get on the threshold and the slope begins, as my colleague just said, they're entrapped. So, Speaker, I think the bottom line is we are on dangerous territory. We know who votes the most, who reads all of our brochures, and who really pays it. Probably the most people, if Olalo's still on, probably the most people watching us today are those people who are retired and on a pension. And lest we forget, they worked hard all their life. They're there because they plan to be there, whether their income is high or whether their income is low. They deserve to enjoy the Sunday night of their lives. What we're doing is saying, come on, guys. It's equity, it's only fair, and we can use all the superlatives to explain and to justify. But what we're doing is almost cruel, and we've got to stay away from it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Choi, followed by Representative Fontaine.
Mr. Speaker, in strong support.
Please proceed in support.
The last Tax Review Commission that was chaired by a rather handsome guy said that pensions should all be taxed equally. About 3 other tax review commissions prior to that also said the same thing. Mr. Speaker, it's an equality issue. When speakers say that all retirees' pension are taxed, the majority of the pensions today are taxed because they don't have employer-sponsored plans. Let's face it, the pensions that we're talking about is going to be for public worker unions and probably the military. Everybody else, people like me who have private companies, our pensions are taxed. So it's really an equality issue. It shouldn't be surprising to anybody because measures like this have hit this House before. The other thing is, the only objection that I really think is valid is that we shouldn't surprise people. You know, we shouldn't tax pensions tomorrow. And I think the Finance Committee did a wonderful job by putting these very, very high limits. It's really rather brilliant. It's, for single taxpayers, it's $100,000. For married, it's $200,000. It eliminates most of the pensions, the employer-sponsored pension plans right now. In fact, it only affects about 3,000 taxpayers. And these are taxpayers in very, very, very high incomes. Now, because we set the limit so high, one day with inflation, all pensions will be taxed. But that date will be 15 to 20 years in the future. And I believe that's enough warning for anybody. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you very much. Representative Fontaine.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. I stand in opposition to this. I would like to enter the words from the Representative Kahala as my own and a couple of additional comments.
So ordered.
You know, when I'm a retiree, I need to disclose that, and when I joined the police department in 1980, I made $1,138 a month, gross. But when I signed on to the police department, I was told that if I did good service and I remained in service for 25 years, that I would get certain benefits. So I was working at a level of pretty much poverty at the time. And as over the years, there became more equity and the benefits changed as time went on. I believe in 1998, the benefits were adjusted to accommodate the better wages that police officers and others were making. But one of the things that was promised to me was that, you know, when I retired, that I would be able to enjoy my retirement tax-free from the state. As many other people in the state, workers, teachers, and everyone. That's what it was. And so that's how I planned my future. And as a result, you know, I did retire, was able to retire at an early age and be involved in business and other things. So to say that when people retire that they're not going to go out and look for other income and those kinds of things where they may reach this threshold is disingenuous. And to say that retirees will have 15 to 20 years to plan is not fair either, because somebody at that point in their life, they may be 80, 85, 90 years old, and they may not be able to adjust when that happens. And many of them may not be able to go back to work to take into that account. So I think we really need to take a hard look at this and saying, what is the unintended consequences? Who are we actually going after? Are we just going to say, well, it's okay because it's the rich retirees and everybody else is safe? No, that's not fair either. You know, it's like, oh, we'll take from the rich and pay for the bills, and that's not correct. So thank you for the time to allow me to put these comments in.
Thank you.